afternoon, everyone, and I'm your host, Terrence Perry. Welcome to the show, Rebels with a Purpose. And I want to thank you all for joining in today. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with us. Thank you. Today, I want to bring an extraordinary guest on today. She's a life coach as well as a CEO of her own company. And I'm going to bring on, before we bring on the guest, let me back up. First of all, I want to thank Amnon for his production of the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
How you doing today, Amnon?
Doing just fine. Keeping cool. Trying to keep cool.
Trying to keep cool, man. This is
It's
beach
brutal.
weather.
I mean,
Yep. All right. So today we're going to bring on Maxine Phillips, and we're going to find out a little bit more about how to design a career. Maxine is going to give us all the intricate details. Maxine, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Terrence. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
I appreciate you coming today, and I have a barrage of questions I want to ask you today. So
Okay.
we're gonna sit back and relax, and I'm gonna ask those questions. But before I do, I want to extend the phone number to the audience this evening that may want to call in, may have questions. That number is 919-518-9773. You can call into the show. You can ask myself, you can ask Maxine or Amnon any questions that you may have. If there's some that we can answer, we definitely want to get that information to you. So, Maxine, I'm gonna get started with just asking the question, who you are and why did you create GAMS Unlimited?
All right.
All right.
Of course, you know I'm Maxine Phillips, and I am the owner of GAMS Unlimited. And what GAMS stands for is the initials of the family members. It's the husband and wife, it's the two children, and it's my first grandson. So within the name of GAMS, we have 3 generations. So I love to use a tagline as transforming generations through life and career coaching. The unlimited part of GAMS Unlimited comes when I believe that when you know who you are, you're able to articulate, you're able to communicate, and you're able to leverage your strengths. The sky is not the limit. Therefore, you're able to have unlimited opportunities and options at your jurisdiction.
All right. That- So let me just ask you a little bit about what GAMS does, and I guess the techniques. Well, before I get into the techniques of that you all use, just tell me a little bit more about what GAMS Unlimited does as a coaching service and as a career coaching service, as well as a I guess a lifelong learners
Right.
coaching service as well.
Okay. So what we do is we help youth. We start with the middle school and high school, and those are going into college. First of all, we want to help them to identify what their natural abilities are. By doing that, they're able to use that information to help them to decide what their elective should be while they're in high school or what their college degree plan should look like. When it comes to adults, we look at those who are transitioning. They might be unemployed, underemployed, pre and post retirees. So everyone needs to look at what am I going to do and what direction am I going to be taking in life. So with the adults, we look interviewing skills, we look at job search opportunities, and we help you to identify what's the best environment for you to use your strengths. Then we do leadership. Of course, there are a lot of people who want to get into leadership positions, but we are a firm believer that leadership does not always mean that you have to have a leadership title. So we help you to understand how do you bring out those leadership abilities that you naturally have. And our young people, they immediately come to the surface when they're in groups or in teams, and their leadership abilities are easily displayed then. We also help lawyers, believe it or not. And you might say, why lawyers? Well, the way we help lawyers is we have an assessment that assess individuals' natural abilities when they're interested in going into the legal side of a profession. So if they want to become an attorney or a lawyer, it helps us to hone in on what are the strengths or what challenges could they encounter while they're going through the obtaining the degree or obtaining their law degree.
Oh, so you got from one extreme to the other.
Yes.
In terms of age group, what's the, I guess, the youngest for the student population that you all help, I guess, to get started in their career, or, and I know some of the students you say in their college majors,
Right.
so they're in high school or
Actually, believe it or not, we start with middle schoolers.
middle school.
And you might say, why middle school? Well, that's the crossroad in life. That's when they're really trying to decide, what do I want to be when I grow up? We're constantly asking our children that question. And so with the middle schoolers, we help them and the parents, not just the student, but we help the parents to understand how does their child take in new information and process it. That means that we're looking at their learning styles. We have kinesthetic learners. Those are your hands-on learners. We have the ones who love to hear and then do. Then we also have those who love to read as well as the visual. Many times parents, when the student needs help, how do you help them? You mainly do it the way that you take in new information. So with the middle schoolers, we help the parents to understand, let's look at how your child takes in that information, and then let's help them or with their schoolwork the way they learn and not the way we learn as an adult. Now, when it comes to high schools, oh wow, the high schoolers, here we are, the sophomore, freshmen, juniors, seniors. This is another crossroad in life where these individuals need to understand what their strengths are so that they can start selecting the classes, their electives, based on their strengths. When they do that, that also leads them into perhaps a degree plan. So they're already acquiring experience even before they go to college using that information. And then once they acquire the degree, then therefore it usually ends up being a career for them. And it's a career that they love, not just a career that they land upon, but it's something that they love and they've been doing for the last 6-7 years, even before they graduate with their degree.
So it's a label, I guess it's a label of love. But now let me back up and ask you about there's an assessment that you do with the students and adults as well. And that assessment is called a Highlands Ability Battery.
Yes.
So, and I know from reading a little bit about your coaching service, that theme comes up over and over. So is that an assessment battery that you use throughout your assistance with students, adults, and the advanced, well, I would say the older adults?
Yes, it is. It's an assessment. It is called the Highlands Ability Battery Assessment. And what that battery assessment is about, it looks at, you take that assessment beginning at the age of 14. We look at 4 different areas. One area is based on the personal style. With that personal style, we are able to understand, are you a generalist or specialist? Now, what do we mean by generalist or specialist? We mean that, are you the type of person who loves to learn a variety of things, which is a generalist, and you're all about team and wanting a team consensus? Or are you a specialist? And a specialist love to dive deep into the subject. They want to become the subject matter expert. They have a totally different perspective on the way that they're going to suggest things to you, the way they're going to interact in the group. But they always want to bring their expertise to the group. Then we look at the time frame. We look at time frame. Time frame means, how do you make decisions? Are you a short-term decision maker? Or you look at the long-term? So how that impacts the student or an adult, that depends on if you are looking to the future, 5 to 10 years, or do you look only within 6 months to 1 year? When you start looking at a job, wow, that time frame plays an important role, because you might need to be in an environment, whereas if you're a short-term thinker, you want to be making decisions immediately. You're not the type of person who want to look into the future. So therefore, the best environment for you is to be making decisions, problem solving immediately on the spot. Then we look at introvert, extrovert. Introvert to us does not mean that you want to go into a corner and totally be by yourself. An introvert to us means that you get energized by being by yourself. You love making decisions by yourself. You might enjoy small group settings opposed to a large setting. So how would this affect a student? Well, from a student perspective, if they decide that they're going to go to a very large university and there are 500 students in a classroom and someone is an introvert, that might not be a beneficial for them. However, a small group would be better for them. Then we look at the extrovert. The extrovert are those who love making decisions with a group, love talking out loud, reading out loud, sharing their information out loud. That's how they get their energy, is by being around people. So that's just the first part of the assessment. Then the next part of the assessment we call are the driving abilities. Wow, these driving abilities are very vital to the person making the decision in what direction they're going to go with for their career. The driving abilities we start looking at, do you like details and can make the big picture out of it? Are you a big picture thinker and then you break it down into details? Then we have the organization conception. That's where, are you organized? Are you a planner? And it helps individuals to understand, should they be in a planning position? When it comes to students, well, are you thinking about, as a freshman in high school, or now are we thinking about what we're going to do in college or what we're going to do after college? So we help them to understand, how do you lay these plans out? So we do a blueprint. The driving abilities, there's also a part of the driving ability that's called thinking or idea productivity. Those idea productivities, we have individuals who do nothing but come up with ideas on top of ideas on top of ideas. So they are perfect for someone who needs to be brainstorming. You want to bring them to the table and have them to come up with as many ideas as they possibly can. However, you're going to have some individuals who only come up with a few ideas. But guess what? Those ideas are money makers. They have thought them through from the beginning to the end. They know what resources they need. They know how much money they're going to need. They know the effect that it's going to have on every other area that it's going to maybe touch. Okay, so then we have what we call concept visualization or theory. Those are the individuals who have that mechanical mind, who can process things in 2 or 3 dimensional. It helps us to understand, are they an engineer? Are they going to be on the scientist side of a career? So that's just the driving abilities. Then we have what is called the specialized abilities. This is where we're able to hone in on their learning style. Are they visual, which is we call design memory? Are they a reader? We call that verbal memory. Are they tonal? We call that rhythm memory. And then are they, the other one, well, anyway, so those are some of the ones as far as the specialized abilities. Then we look at, are they a high observation person? If your student is a high observation person, I always tell the parents, please have that student to sit in the front of the room and not the back of the room. You might say, why? Well, the reason for that is because if they're a high observation, they're going to pay attention to everything that happens if they're sitting at the back of the room. Everybody that gets up, everybody that moves, everybody that comes past the door, anything that's going to go on, they're going to see it. So therefore, you want to keep their attention by having them to sit in the front of the room. And then we look at numbers. If you're a high number person, it doesn't mean that you need to be a CPA. It could mean that you could be a statistician. So we help you to understand what part and how do you leverage that number ability that you might have. The other part of the assessment is vocabulary. And you might say, why is it vocabulary? Well, depending on the profession that you go into, it's going to depend on the vocabulary and the information that you're going to need to be able to acquire and pronounce the words. So therefore, vocabulary is not a natural ability. It is a learned skill. It is not something that you were born with. You had to learn to talk. You had to learn to read. You had to learn to speak. You had to learn to memorize the words and then pronounce them. So, but we do want you to understand that, do you have a strength in the vocabulary, or are you going to have some challenges depending on the profession that you go into? You can overcome those challenges, and we help you to do that.
All right, that's a lot.
It's a lot of information.
But it's very informative, and it also speaks to the Highland Ability Assessment.
Yes.
Did you is that a tool that you created with this program? How did you come about putting that tool together? Because it sounds like, I mean, it's really in depth.
Very.
And I guess it have to be in order to get a person from where they are to what they want their career to be, in the future.
Right. I wish I could say I designed this, but I did not. But there is a company called the Highlands Company in New York, and it was designed by them. And actually, it was designed by a guy by the name of Stephen O'Connor. And Stephen worked at a particular factory, and he designed it because when he would hire individuals, he recognized that he was not putting them in the right job based on their abilities. And so therefore he started doing research and started doing samples and surveys and so forth, and he came up with this way of evaluating what is the best environment for this person to use their natural abilities. So Highlands is the one that I am certified. I had to go through extensive training to become certified in order to deliver the feedback once you take the assessment. So you have to take the assessment from a certified consultant through Highlands.
Okay, and I got another question, but let me give the audience an opportunity to call in. Anyone that want to call in can call in at 919-518-9773. If you are in the, education field, or you could be in any field really. I think this assessment, the whole piece is geared toward helping anybody.
Anyone.
It could really, bring them to, an understanding of themselves.
Yes.
So do call in if you got questions about that. We have Maxine Phillips here today. She can answer those questions in detail. But also, let me back up a bit and ask you about how do you utilize this with the school system? You as a business owner, do you contract with the school system or different systems? How do you get the students and clients and adults? Are you a part of the school system or what?
I would love to be a part of the school system. So if you're out there, call in so we can partner. But my clients are through word of mouth. And I work with, like I told you, middle schoolers. And so once I work with these middle schoolers and then the parents understand it, then they share the information with other parents. The adults do the same thing. I do go to the churches and I do share my information with them. I go to the community centers and share information with them. I'm open and available to come into your settings and share information with, just if you want to pull a group of people together, I'm willing to come in and share this information. The most important thing is that I am able to touch these individuals who need this information. And if you would help spread the word, then that would give me a platform in order for me to go in and share this information. Because, Terrence, as you said, this assessment is for anyone, as long as you're the age of 14. But we use it, and I even use it in an organization setting. And you might say, how? Well, I do team development. Many people do team building. I do team development. With that, each person on the team takes this assessment. And then I give them the individual feedback, but then we come together as a group and they understand the strengths that they bring to the group. Therefore, they're able to utilize that. I love helping them to become what I call a high performance team. And having this information about each individual on your team and knowing their strengths, you're able to really, really hone in and move products, get processes started, get processes completed. So this assessment is for anyone as long as you're the age of 14.
All right. Again, you can call into the show at 919-518-9773. Let me ask you this, a little bit more about your background. You was in corporate America for a number of years, and then you kind of switched gears. How did you make that transition from the corporate arena to being the CEO of your own company into, the public arena? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Terrence. Sometimes you end up in a position where you have to make a decision. But fortunate for me, I had already started through North Carolina State University, the professional business coaching program. I started that in November, really on one Thursday. The following Monday, my husband put in the mail his retirement papers. That afternoon, they called an emergency meeting at my company only to inform us that the site was closing. So, some things happen for a reason, and you have to take it exactly as that. So what I with this coaching program at NC State, they offer you a mentor coach. And my mentor coach asked me 10 questions on a sheet of paper. I had to complete it. The last question was, what have you been procrastinating on that would bring fulfillment to your life? I answered it 2 ways: start a business and write a book. As I started writing about the business, when I finally completed it, I had written 20 pages. Well, I knew then there was no reason for me to seek another job. I knew then that this was my next assignment, and I've never looked back. Now, the book. But let me go back again. When they called us for that to let us know that the site was closing, that was November. But in February of that next year, I was informed that my job was being eliminated. Well, that was on a Monday. And that Tuesday, I left, headed to another site, only to lay other employees off because of the position that I held. But that Thursday, my husband went to be with the Lord. So within 1 week, I was without a job, and I was without my soulmate of the 35 years. So you have a crossroad. You have a decision to make when you come up against that adversity, but it's up to you what you do with it. So rather than crawling under a rock, I used the platform that I felt that my spiritual guidance had given me, and that was to go out and help other people, because you don't have to give up. You don't have to give up on your dreams. You know, you can let someone help you fulfill those dreams, help you move forward to complete those dreams. So when you come up against adversity, and the other thing that I did to help me was I journaled. I wrote. I wrote what I was feeling. I wrote the thoughts that I had. They were happy times. They were sad times. Tears fell. The paper was wet. But that was okay because I was able to cope with it. So you learn how to look at adversity and move forward, but you can do it by using the strengths that you have, but also sharing your wisdom with others. And I feel like that's exactly what I'm doing through GAMS Unlimited. I am transforming generations, because the minute I work with one youth and that youth become that adult, they have a family, and they instill in them what I've instilled and share my wisdom with them and help them to overcome, I'm transforming generations. So basically, Terrence, this is how I got started, and this is what GAMS Unlimited is all about. I look at it as my mission. I look at it as my ministry. I look at it as my calling, my purpose, and I feel like I'm commissioned to do this. I'm commissioned to help anybody who wants to be helped. I'm commissioned to help you excel in life.
Mm-hmm. How long was that transitional process? Would you say? I mean, would a year or 6 months, couple of years?
Immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah. I completed the program. I started the program November of 2009. I completed the program August of 2010. I started the business September of 2010. So I did not waste any time. So I felt like I didn't even have any time to waste. I'm like, I needed to get out here and help people. It helped me, and I wanted to show people that I wanted to help them.
All right. So let me ask you this. How would you convince myself or Amnon that we are a masterpiece created for a special purpose?
Yes.
Because that speaks to the work that you do. How would you convince myself or Amnon that we are masterpieces?
You talk for yourself. I am already.
We all are a masterpiece. I'm going to tell you, from birth, you were created as a masterpiece. And when you were created, you were uniquely designed for a purpose. So what GAMS Unlimited does is that we pride ourselves in helping you to understand and uncover or discover what that purpose is, because it's your natural abilities that will help you spring forward to completing that destiny. So I love what you're saying, Terrence, because my quote is, we are a masterpiece uniquely created for a purpose and given natural abilities to reach our destiny. So my way of convincing you is that you were born with inner abilities. What we need to do is to help you discover those abilities. Don't leave this earth having done what you were created to do while you were on here. My question that I ask my clients, What's your legacy? When you're no longer here, what will people say? What will people remember? If you're working on a project, what's the legacy of that project? If you wrote a book, what are they going to get out of it? So you're here for a purpose, and you are a masterpiece. I want you to always remember that you were created as a masterpiece. There are no two of us that are alike. My logo is a tree. Now, that's nothing unusual. It has green leaves. That's nothing unusual. But what's unusual about the logo, the leaves are butterflies. Different, there no two butterflies are alike. And that was a vision that was given me when the business was given to me, the vision for the business was given to me. Then the logo came later. Because I'm like, what logo should I use? The tree has deep roots. It evolved. A butterfly, it evolves. Man, we evolve. So the three are so unique, such a masterpiece with each one, uniquely designed, and all of them are designed for a purpose. So me convincing you to let GAMS Unlimited help you uncover those abilities and become that masterpiece that you were designed to do, what do you think? Did I do an okay job?
You did a great job. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. But let me ask you this also. Being that I am convinced, and I'm sure any parent would be too. But to get to that point again, I go back to the Highlands Ability Assessment.
Yes.
Is that the piece that you could take that assessment and create, I guess, a action plan? Well, yeah, you
You're
can
right.
create an action plan that would show myself or anybody else how to get from the start to the finished product of who that person is. You're gonna show that person what their true abilities are.
Yes.
You're gonna show them what gifts and talents they have just from doing that assessment.
Yes.
You can pull that.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing about the assessment, there's a two-part to it. The first part is to help us to understand the profile like I explained to you earlier. The second part to the assessment is called what we call the Career Exploration Supplemental Guide. What that does, it takes all of that profile that I just spoke to you about, all the different areas, the personal style, the specialized abilities, the driving abilities, and then it says, okay, now here are the career categories that complement your strengths, and you have an opportunity to look at those. There are so many of them. So what I have, because some individuals might have 4 or 5, but even with those 4 or 5 that it hones in on and say these are the closely related to your abilities, but within that you have maybe about 10 or 15 different career categories that's applicable for that. So what they have to do is they have a little homework afterwards. So they have to go to a site called ONET, and ONET is a federal government site that they have already gone out and done all the research about the different jobs. And out there it's going to show you what the knowledge, skills, and abilities are for the career that you're interested in. It's going to help you to understand what the pay is. It's going to help you to understand what education you need, what the technical side of life you're going to need. And after they do that, then that's where they send those, they at least narrow it down to 3 career options. From those 3 career options, then we start exploring. The next level, they start talking to professionals already in that career that they're interested in going into. What better way than to learn from someone who's already in that profession and doing that work? These individuals are able to understand, this is not what I want to do. Or, man, I can't wait to get started. And then so it helps them to hone in on that niche that they want in life. And also it helps them to explore and get awareness. And many times they end up finding a mentor. I encourage everyone to have a mentor. I've had my mentor for over 25 years. So, you can't go wrong by having a mentor, by having someone to take you under their wings and help you to share things that they already know. So that's the other side. That's the other way that we help students or we help adults to understand how do you hone in on that career. And that's one of the ways. This is one of the ways that we do it.
Okay. Amnon, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. So I want to ask you a little bit about you've been an author, but before I do, I also just want to hinge on the fact that you said, so you find a mentor and you pair that person with the mentor. Now, but that's not just the student, the adult also.
That's
If there's
right.
an adult that's taking that assessment
That's right.
and is trying to, I guess, either start a career or change their career. Say you got an adult that's midlife, going through a midlife crisis,
Uh-huh.
if we want to say that, and they're ready to change that career. Who does this work better for? The student that's coming out of high school into his career, or that midlifer that's transitioning into the next phase of their life and they're not sure what to do next? Who benefits best from your
Both.
experiences?
Both.
It's been about 50-50.
Right, both. There's no right or wrong, because what we do is we personalize we personalize what you need. We meet you where you are. So if a student, we have to meet them where they are. They're not yet does not have as much experience. So we have to help them to acquire that experience and to acquire that exposure and that awareness. So that's some of the things that we hone in on. From a student, we also look at different workshops. We're looking at note taking, test taking, study skills, presentation skills. And then we're also helping them understand, how do you interview? How you even start your resume? They can't yet maybe create a LinkedIn profile, but we start working on creating a LinkedIn profile. The other thing we do for students is that we help them to present themselves. Because no matter where you go, how many times are you asked, well, tell me something about yourself? So you need to be able to tell them something about yourself. It's almost like your elevator speech. So we help you to do that, even as a student. Now, when you're talking about an adult, we have a program that we're getting ready to introduce in the next week or so. It's called the Job Assignment Search and Interviewing Program. What that does, it helps you to understand your job search. And I tell people, it's not about a job. Look for your next assignment, because, career is a lifetime and life is a project. Nothing lasts forever. And so therefore you have to look for assignments. And so we look at what's the best assignment that you can use for your strengths. Therefore, the assessment helps us to hone in, first of all, on what your strengths are. We use the assessment to help you to articulate what you can do for an employer. Because an employer wants to know, what values do you bring to the organization? So when you're in the interview, you need to be able to tell your stories. And your stories are the values that you've done from prior experience. But if you're not able to articulate and tell that information to an employer, they perhaps could overlook you. All right. So that helps us, the assessment helps us to help you that way. The assessment also helps us to, once you hone in on that, then what area of the career should you be looking at? I've had an attorney one time that his strengths were technical. It's not that he didn't want to be an attorney, because he loved being an attorney, but he ended up being a general counsel for a technology company, opposed to just being I'm not going to say an attorney, but out on his own, trying to start his own business. But now he's with a technical company. So how awesome is that you can still use what you've gone to school for, just in a different way? So what we do is we help you to repurpose your skills, repurpose your abilities. It doesn't mean that you need to jump ship from a company just because you feel like you're dissatisfied. So what we need to do is sit down and look at, what are your strengths? Where can you best use those strengths? Perhaps maybe you're in the wrong department, so we need to look at a different department in that company for you. So we help you to network internally. A lot of people think they have to network by going to, evening networking events, but you can network right within your company. You need to get to know the influencers. So don't pass that opportunity up. Join some of the committees, volunteer to do certain things to show your skills, to show your abilities, to show another side of management that you have these other skills and abilities. The other thing that I always say, they hired you for a particular job. Am I right? But who showed up for that job? The whole person. So you have more sides to you than just a particular job or a role of responsibility that they hired you for. You're not going to show that right away, but eventually you want to show all the skills that you have so that an employer can look at you differently. You don't have to wait for them to deem you as top talent, because guess what? To us, with GAMS Unlimited, you're already top talent. We just help you to bring that out and help them to realize that.
Maxine, let me ask you this: outside of outside of working for someone else, does this assessment show that a person is an entrepreneur? And do you all say, that this may be what you need to do and not work for somebody else? You may need to jump right into your own, to your own job that you created or your own company. Does the assessment bring that out in people, and do you all have that authentic conversation with a person and say that, hey, I feel like you should start your own company based on what we see here?
Yeah, I mean, the assessment brings out so many different angles to a person. And yes, entrepreneurship is one of the ones that it definitely reveals, because some individuals, they already know that it's very difficult for them to take instructions. And will they follow them once they're given the instructions? Do I tell them to become an entrepreneur? They need to discover that. It's important for them to discover it, because I never wanted to come back to me and say, but you told me to do this. But my whole thing as a coach, we help them to discover what's already inside of them. And if they decide they want to become that entrepreneur, then I do try to make sure that I help them to place themselves within the right, surround themselves with the right people. They need the right resources. Who can I go to? Small business, to learn about business, running a business. The CPA, the legal side. So there are other different things that we start talking about then. We have a totally different type of conversation. I have some clients who bypass going to college because they want to start their own business. They're very successful at it. Then I have clients who went to college and they're very successful. So it depends on what you want. I always say, don't give up on your dreams, because we have not given up on you. So it all depends.
Amnon, you got a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maxine, when you were talking about that technology guy,
Yes.
are you saying he went to work as an attorney for that company, or he changed what he's doing?
He went to work as an attorney for that company. He was an attorney anyway. He
Right.
went to school and
Right.
acquired all the the credentials and everything. Sometimes individuals go into the legal side not understanding why they're going into it. Sometimes they go into it because their friends go into it, their parents they went into it, or because they think there's a lot of money into it. But they don't realize that once they get there, it all depends on them, what their personality, what their strengths are. This person had both. They had the legal side and they had a very strong technology side. So therefore, they realized that, hey, I don't have to necessarily limit myself to the environment on where I can practice law. So therefore, they had options. That's what I love about it. You have options that you can select from. And then you explore to see, is that option a good fit for you? And when they explored the technical side of it, they realized that being a general counsel was an excellent fit for them. They love it. And that's what I love about helping you.
So we always hear about, oh, he's got his bachelor's and he's working at McDonald's.
Right.
Is there a situation where somebody has a degree in one thing and he can't find his way, or can't find a job, and he goes for another one? Does that stand in his way? I mean, to go and work for McDonald's, they don't care.
Right.
If you have what you
Okay.
have. But if you go and you go into work as a technician somewhere,
Okay.
what I thought you were talking about, will that stand in his way because the employer will say, oh, he's an attorney, I mean, he went to school, he's probably not going to stay here?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I'm gonna come back to it depends. Okay?
Okay.
It depends on you, the individual. Can you market yourself? Have you brand yourself and know yourself well enough to help that employer to understand this is the love that you have. This is why you want to be there. This is why you want to do what you're doing. Some employees might look at, well, this person has a bachelor's. Why would they want to come in at entry level? Well, the entry level is because you have to get started somewhere in life. They might want to get into that company just because they love being in that company and know what that company offers. And the only way to get through the door is to take the entry level position. But it doesn't mean that they're going to jump ship just because they're coming in as an entry level position. What it's telling you as an employer is helping you to understand they want to be with you. If you give them the chance and they are willing to grow into the position, perhaps then you will be able to realize all the other strengths that they bring to your organization, and you can use them in another capacity. So I would only encourage employers to allow some of these individuals who have masters, who have PhDs, who have undergrads, an opportunity to get their foot through your door, because you're going to find out that they're going to be a very valuable employee.
That employer will win.
Yes, it's a win-win for everyone, and that's what I love about what I do. I'm all about win-wins.
Let me ask you a question back to the, I guess, the student. Does the assessment discover if a person is ADHD or ADD, and do it pick up on that?
No, it does
just-
not. No, it does not. What we look at, we're looking at the profile. We're looking at, are they an introvert, extrovert, and how do they use that? Are they the generalist, specialist? How will we use that? How will we use your strengths? ADHD and ADD, I look at, when I coach to the whole person. And the whole person means health and wellness as well. And I always encourage parents that let's look at your child's diet as well. I know you have the medical side to it, and I'm not trying to be a medical profession whatsoever, but I do realize that sometimes the way we eat can influence the way we behave. And so I always encourage that side because I look at the whole person. It's not only just career for me, but it's your beliefs, it's your interests, it's your goals, it's all the things about you, because again, you're a whole person. The career is just one data point to who you are.
So let me ask you, with that being said, you've been a coach, and you're looking at the whole person. When you're coaching this person now, do you, because of your experience, do you step outside the coaching arena if you have information that you need to share with them outside of coaching that they may need to be aware of, or do you stay within that coaching practice? For instance, I'm a HIS coach, which is a Christian coach,
Right.
and sometimes we coach to the spirit,
Right.
and we have to make that decision whether we need to coach to that person's spirit or just what are we coaching to.
Okay.
So, I mean, is that an assessment that you make with your coaching practice? Because I also understand that you are many different things. You're a coach, you're a mentor, you're a consultant.
Yes.
So how do you, like I said, outside of just looking at their career, do you make an assessment outside of that?
I am a believer, first and foremost, and I am always being led. So when I enter into my coaching sessions with my clients, I have already prayed prior to us meeting. So I'm led, and it never fails that I always am able to hit on exactly what's troubling them or what's their cause. Do I switch hats? Of course I switch hats, but I only switch hats with permission. There's a time when I might say, can I be transparent? And then I give them a story about myself to help them to understand that they're no different than the next person. Then I can switch hats and say, I need to be a consultant. And as a consultant, you might give advice, so you give them options at that point. And then I'll switch hats and I might be a trainer. And as a trainer, then we role play. So it depends. And my spirit leads me on how to help them. Now, there are many times that if a person tells me that they are, spiritual and so forth, and if they ask me to pray for them, then I pray for them. So it depends on what your need is. I meet you where you are.
Okay. I know with some coaches, they stay inside the box of, well, I'm a coach. And some coaches are, there are many different things besides
Right.
coaches. Some are therapists, psychologists,
Right.
counselors and so forth.
Right.
But when you operate in one box, sometimes that limits your ability to help that individual. But like you said, you are led, and you know when to step outside of one arena into the other, and you ask and you do it.
Right.
So.
And one of the things that we do is that one of the things we don't do is we do not step beyond the coaching and the career part of it. So we don't step into the therapist or the counseling side. If that's needed, then we do have that conversation, but I don't enter into that arena. I refer them to someone who has that profession. The other thing about our coaching practice is that it's confidential. And so with the students, if they're underage, then the parents is they in the room with us when we hold the sessions. If they're an adult, everything is confidential, even if the parent is the sponsor for their adult child in college, but it's still confidential, and I cannot share any information unless by law I'm required to share it with anyone or with the parent. But as long as the person is an adult, I cannot share it, even if there is a sponsor. Even corporations is the same way. There's just a limitation to what can be shared with the sponsor from a company.
Do you get into the fixed mindset person and the growth mindset person when you looking at, I guess, whether they are outgoing or if they are introverts? Do you look at how they look at the world in terms of, if you got a fixed mindset, then you got a fixed way of looking at how to move forward? Or you say, okay, well, I only know a certain amount, so I can only do a certain amount.
Right.
And I know the fixed mindset operates like that, but
Right.
the person with the growth mindset says, I may have this skill today, but I can acquire this other skill tomorrow and still grow. But how do you all deal with the fixed mindset person and opposed to, and the growth mindset person?
Exactly. I use what is called AMP,
AMP.
AMP. I call it amp it up.
Yeah.
You might say, what in the world is that? That's called the achievement mindset process. And so what I do is I share with them the process that I have used my entire life. I did not even realize I was doing it until about 3 years ago, when I started writing out my process. And I was like, wait a minute, everything I do, I always use this process. So with a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, what I try to do is help you to understand to have an achievement mindset.
All right.
And that achievement mindset is, when the first thing about an achievement is that you usually see where you want to go. So you see it. The word it is behind everything that I'm going to talk about. And you might say it. It depends on where you are in life. It depends on what you want to do. It depends on where you want to go. It depends on what's happening to you right now and how you're going to handle it. That's the it, but only you know what that it is. The C is a vision, a dream, a thought, a desire, an outcome that you're trying to acquire. So you have to see where you're going in order to get there. If you don't see it, how are you going to get there? The next thing you have to do is know it. Know is to know who you are. Know your capabilities. Know your abilities. Know your natural strengths. Know that you know that you know. Have you heard that before? I think that's powerful, because once you know who you are, the sky is not the limit. So don't limit yourself. And then after you know it, then you have to believe it. You have to believe in you. Only you can be you. You have to believe that the vision that you saw for yourself, that you know you have the capabilities and abilities to do it. So you have to believe in it. After you believe it, then the next thing you can do is plan it. You can't plan anything in life if you don't see it, know it, and believe it. So once you plan it, that's when you lay out your structure. That's when you put in place who you need to talk to, what you need to do next, the first step, second step, third step, who you need to go to. Do you need a mentor? Do you need financing? You have to plan for it all. And after you plan it, plans, I always say, are just words on a piece of paper unless you can do it. So the next thing about the achievement mindset is to do it. Do what you said you're going to do. Do it after you've planned it, and execute it to the best of your abilities. Execute it with excellence. Execute it with quality. Let yourself be known for having a standard of excellence at all times. That's to do it. And with students, if we can help them understand this right now, this little process that I'm talking about, just think how powerful they're going to be immediately, not later in life, but as early as possible. So once you do it, then you achieve it. That achievement that's why the process is called achievement mindset. You achieve it. What I help you to do when you're achieving it is to document it. That documenting come in. That's why I have a journal that I created. And Terrence was talking about I'm an author. I'm an author about a book called Transformation, Write, Share, Live. As you're going through these transformations and you are achieving it, it's beautiful to document it so that you have a record of it. You can use the same information on your resume, on your LinkedIn process, to write your book about life. So that's achieving it and sharing it with others. Pay it forward. Be a mentor for someone if someone was a mentor for you. Or if you didn't even have a mentor, still serve as a mentor. And the last thing after achieving it is just to lay back and live it. Live a life on purpose. Be happy. Happiness does lead to success. It's not success leads to happiness. So when you're happy, you're going to be successful. So with that achievement mindset process I talked about, see it, know it, believe it, plan it, do it, achieve it, and then live it.
Well said, well explained. So let me ask you this: what are some of the things that you do to relax and center yourself after you lived it and achieved it, and after doing all that? How do you relax and center yourself outside of the work that you do?
I meditate.
Meditation.
I go into meditation. I go into, I love my bubble baths with the little lavender and candle lights, and I just relax. I'm a firm believer that you need to be still at times. In order to hear your spirit, you must take some me time. Matter of fact, I'm writing a blog talking about me time, the importance of me time. You need to allow yourself 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, if nothing else, but just to take some time, still away for yourself and listen to your spirit. I love listening to Christian music. Sometimes I love listening to jazz. And then again, I love listening to line dance music too, because I love to dance. So sometimes my little way of relaxing is to do my own little line dancing by myself, but that's okay. That works too. But just find time to get re-energized. If you're the introvert and you need to get still away and be by yourself, then do that. If you're the extrovert and you need to be around some people, then do that. But somewhere during that day or somewhere during that week, have some time to yourself so that you can hear your spirit. And that's how and then I love self-help books. I'm always looking at what can I read to help the next person or even help myself. It's all about being a lifelong learner. And what people don't know about me is that I'm also a master tailor. So I've gone to tailoring school and I love to sew, so I'm very crafty, so I love making, craft things or drapes and bedspreads and, curtains and flower arrangements and things like that. So I relax that way as well.
What is a show that you like to watch on TV that you shouldn't like to watch on TV?
I'm a Hallmark Channel person, so I like Happily Ever After movies. I always like it's a win-win for me. Remember I said earlier I love the win-win? So Hallmark movies are always win-win. Everybody wins at the end. So those are the type of shows that I watch.
You don't have a guilty pleasure?
I really don't. I really don't watch TV as often as people think I do, unless it's Hallmark, and I have the ability to DVR those stations. So those
I think he means
those movies.
What's your vices?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a healthy eater, so that's one of the reasons why I got into journaling is because I ended up discovering a situation about myself that had I not journaled, I would not have discovered because the medical professions could not even discover it, that I'm allergic to preservatives, all preservatives, not just some preservatives. And so through journaling, it saved my life. And so I'm so thankful that the Spirit guided me to create this journal because it ended up saving my life.
So expand on that a little bit more for us. If that journal, you were journaling and that inspired, or how did that help you to find out that you were allergic to preservative?
I've always journaled since the age of 11. And of course, at the age of 11, at that time, they call them diaries, I think.
Right.
We had to put the lock and
So,
key. But I've always done that, and I've always written my plans down and put them in the back of a book. And then when I find them, I would always achieve. I would already have achieved them, and that's when I realized to me that it was the importance of writing things down. And so I continued to do that, even from age of 11 through my teens, through my early 20s, 30s, and so forth. And what happened one night is because of me doing the work that I do, I always would tell my clients to journal, write down your thoughts. And one night the Spirit came to me and say, why are you having them to purchase a journal? Create a journal. And I'm like, I don't know how to create. I don't know how to go about creating a journal. And so I started writing like I always do. And guess what? It gave me all the instructions that I needed in order to create this journal. This was at the end of August of 2015. December 16th of 2015, the journal was released. So when he's in the plans, he's in the plans. And so my clients now receive a journal that they get when they are working with me called Transformation, Write, Share, and Live. You will all go through transformations. So I want you to write about them. I want you to share them with your families because they can live through your legacy. So don't be shy. Share, because many times we don't have an opportunity to literally sit and talk with each other, but you can definitely write about it. So this is a journal that I created.
now, how can they get that journal? And also, can you just let them know how they can get in touch with you? What social medias you on that they can find you? And is that book on Amazon or is it in Barnes and Nobles?
No, it's on Maxine.
It's on your website?
It's on my website. It's on the www.gamsunlimited.com/transformation would take you directly to the page. GAMMS unlimited.com is the website itself. And then a /transformation, and that would take you directly to the journal page.
All right. So you have that information. Maxine, I want to thank you for coming today because I think what you just shared with us over this past hour, it was a lot, but it was informative. I think it's what students need to hear in high school. I also think college students need to hear that, as well as, parents and adults that are in a transitioning from one phase of life to another. But I think just as important is that assessment that you do. If people are aware of that assessment, how that assessment works, they can get in contact with you
Yes.
to get that assessment and really find out who they are, what their abilities are, and how they can take that knowledge and information to really soar in their
Yes.
career and any of their aspirations. Because I think that assessment really shows, like I said, a lot of different sides.
Yes, yes.
And I think we don't get that enough, understanding who we are. But with a tool like that, like you said, you can get that early. You can start to figuring that out early. If you can figure that out early enough, then they give you enough time to move forward. Even if you figure it out late, you still have an opportunity because it's never too late.
It's never too late.
You still have an opportunity, even at midlife or beyond that, to be the person that you were designed to be just by following that assessment.
That is so true. That is so true. You couldn't have said any better than I love that. That's a great way to sum
Now,
it
if
up.
anybody needs your services, they go to the website. The website is not just for the book.
It's just, that's why I say www.gamsunlimited.com is the website.
One place.
One-stop shop is
Okay.
where you can find all the services that I offer, as well as the book, as well as the many blogs. Please read some of the blogs that has been written, and it also gives some valuable information about learning abilities.
All right. Well, we want to thank Maxine Phillips for coming and joining us today. We look forward to having you back
Thank
soon
you.
after you go on your retreat and relax, and then come back centered
Yes.
and do it all over again.
Okay.
But again, audience, you do have her contact information. I want to thank you all for joining in this evening. We'll be back next Tuesday at 2. And I want to thank you all. Have a blessed week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.